Nicholson. A tear wouldn't hurt. It's a tear. Oh, tear.
I was like, wow, you went with that one quick.
No, he had to make it by jabbing himself in the head. Yeah.
It's 5:15. We'll call this regular meeting to order. I'd like to recognize everybody in the audience tonight. Would you please stand and recite the pledge with me?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Moving on to B, school board norms. Diane?
The board developed norms are: decisions will be based on the board's strategic plan, its mission, and what's best for students. The board will act as stewards of tax dollars. Board members will complete foundation work to be prepared for meetings. Meetings will be efficient. All perspectives will be voiced and heard. All board members will maintain a professional decorum.
Thanks, Diane. Moving on to public communications, we have one. Hermick, would you like to come forward?
Good evening. Thank you for taking time to speak with me or allowing me to speak. My name is Cody Mickelson. I'm the German teacher in Jamestown Public Schools. I'm here to represent myself tonight, although those boundaries get a bit blended when you're as interested in foreign languages as I am myself. So I'm here to address the board memo that you guys will be considering under item number 3 of your agenda, which is to start a world languages class in the middle school in lieu of doing core credit classes in our middle school as we currently do now. For those of you who don't know, we do teach level 1 Spanish class, level 1 German class in our middle school, and they are, pretty popular classes among our students that allows those students to get a head start on their foreign language career. So without going, I only have so long, so without going too far into that, I do want to just set out kind of a timeline that I have been trying to make headway in this arena. So I did go back through all of my emails here, and on August 12th, 2015, I do have an email asking to visit with the board at their retreat. At that time, that did not occur. So I did say that we could visit about that the next year. That was in reference to hiring so that we could get out of this pitfall that we had kind of fallen into doing overloads and whatnot there. The following email here is from August 17th, which is a very similar request. At that time, I had actually visited with the board at your guys' retreat, and that's when we discussed the grid of kind of opportunities that we had for our decision to go forward. I do have a copy of that somewhere here. However, that would be this, and I believe everybody received that through email, and I was really happy that that was a conversation that we could have. Following that email, I had reached out again on the 1st of January to try and get kind of a semblance on where we were at. We were getting close to registration time, so I didn't want there to be this, we should hire somebody, but who can we hire? So we did survey all of the students in our classes about what type of third foreign language they might like to see if we were able to offer one. It was a very popular survey with all kinds of results. So that was some of the efforts that we had put in there. I did meet with a principal in March about scheduling for next year, where we did discuss some options and opportunities, and hopeful that we could find somebody to fill some of the voids that we currently had in our department. So we left that meeting with one of the main options being that I would look for the unicorn, he would look for the leprechaun, and we see who could find what. And so with a tone of seriousness, we did try to end up on that. And then the next communication I received about this was actually on May 3rd. So it's not that I'm saying I wasn't communicated with, it's that there have been some gaping holes in this, and most of this has been initiated by myself, and I really would have appreciated a little more reception on the other end of this, which is the whole narrative of why this is a surprising move to me, to do a class like this. So I really feel like parents should be able to have some input on a decision that's as large as this, being able to voice what their successes are and what their students have gotten out of a class like this. And just being able to get some of those good perspectives out of this. I have spoken in the past with Mr. Veldkamp and Ms. Larson, as well as I think with Ms. Schmidt and Roger yourself. I've spoken with you, and you've always been really receptive about this and hearing what I have to say, and I hope, as annoying as I am, I hope that it was received well. And I only have the best intention I didn't want to start bugging everybody ear by ear because I trusted that the right decision would get made, and I sincerely don't believe that the decision in front of you is the best one. That's, my personal opinion, but I've been able to brag to other school districts when we travel about how great the structure is in our district, larger districts than ourselves. I've been able to say that we have an 8th grade program, that we can get kids to Germany, that we have opportunity for upper level kids, all those kind of things. And I'm really proud of that with the department that we have at our high school. As short on people as we are, we have a great Spanish teacher who will, as you see later, will be leaving us, as well as Kim Jornsen, who's doing an overload for us. So we have made wonderful strides with limited resources. Really what I've been looking for is we just need to get past 1 year, I think, with the right individual to make something work. And I think that right individual that we can find would make a great addition to the staff as far as flexibility. So I'm really asking that you guys consider seriously what the ramifications are to upending a 4-credit program in the middle school and ensuring that students really do have an opportunity, if they want to explore, at an earlier level than 8th grade rather than in lieu of 8th grade study. So I certainly only have so much time. I respect that you've heard my voice, and I hope that your decision will be one that either denies Ms. Simon her right to leave as resignation, or that you can, she won't be happy I said that, but, or that you understand that we really do have the best interests of students in mind, and that's all we've ever had in mind. I told my students today it would be to my advantage to be in one location and have the same class all day long, but I guess I've never thought about it that way. When other teachers complain that I drive to the middle school, I've never thought about it as a bad thing. My subs do, but I never did, and I always still really enjoy every group that I get to teach. So I really appreciate your time, and thank you for the consideration you're giving us.
Thanks, Cody. Moving on to conflicts of interest. Any conflicts of interest to declare? Hearing none, moving to consent agenda. Motion to approve. Motion by Brenda. Seconded by Steve. Any discussion? Hearing none, assuming roll call vote, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving into our regular agenda, we have nothing under recognition or correspondence reports. Student council report, they here? No? Okay. Moving to the DARE report, Officer Staska.
Good evening. So this year was obviously my first year teaching DARE. Had gone to South Dakota last summer to become a DARE instructor. So it was all kind of new, trying to learn how to teach it, what's the best way to go about it. This year we had 171 fifth grade students go through the DARE program. I had 9 classes each week, so Monday through Friday, 9 classes at all 5 elementary schools. DARE has kind of changed over the years. I know DARE used to be, there was one report at one time that actually had some negative effects, but they've changed kind of the whole DARE program. It's not focused solely on drugs and alcohol or violence. It's more of good decision making, how to make a good choice, what are some ways to deal with maybe a difficult situation that you found yourself in. So it's really changed over time. It does stand for Drug Abuse Resistance Education. Like I said, it helps make good decision making skills. We talked about risks, consequences, some resistance strategies, pressure, peer pressure, stress, some signs of stress, how you know you're stressed, how to handle the stress, bullying, communicating. We cover a wide variety of different topics over 10 weeks. Once we finished the DARE program, I had them, each student wrote me a DARE report. It was supposed to be just a page about kind of what they learned, what they took away from DARE, what they enjoyed. This year was kind of new. I had gone with Officer Hardy last year when he was finishing his DARE program up. And one thing that I learned going to the training was you kind of want to make it a big deal. Once they finish the DARE training, you want to make it a big deal to them, make them feel like they accomplished something. So each school kind of had its own little graduation program. We had all the students in each school come to the gym, and the 5th graders sat up front, and they each received a DARE diploma showing that they graduated from the DARE program. Their name, and then I signed each one of them, and then they each received a DARE t-shirt with their diploma. The diplomas, the t-shirts, the workbooks that they had, pencils, all that was purchased through the Pork Open. Each year the police department has a benefit. It's a golf scramble, and the money raised from that goes to pay for the DARE program, the books and the t-shirts and certificates. I do have a few students here tonight. Not sure that we'll get through all of them, but they do have some DARE reports that they wanted to read to the board. So I told Adam that you'd be going, so if you want to come up, Adam Sortland from Louis L'Amour.
My DARE report. DARE is a great thing we had this year, so I'm glad to share it with you. We learned a lot this year, including there can be dangerous drugs, and we got to make the right decision to resist. First, we learned about the DDMM. It's an acronym for DARE Decision Making Model. The steps are define, assess, respond, and evaluate. Define is seeing what the problem is. Assess is looking at the choices you are given. Respond is to pick your answer, and evaluate is to see your decision to see if it was good. And that's just the beginning. In the second week, we learned about the consequences of smoking and drinking alcohol. Alcohol is illegal for anyone under 21. There are more than 75,000 deaths related to alcohol a year, and alcohol slows down the brain and makes you pick decisions you really don't want to do. Now we are moving on to drugs. Drugs are illegal for anyone under 18 years of age. There are more than 400,000 deaths related to drugs in a year, and it contains harmful chemicals, one called nicotine, that makes it addictive. Then in lesson 3, we learned we had to make responsible choices to keep us safe. Here we practice using the DDMM. We started getting the DDMM by now. Next, we learned about resistance strategies. They included avoiding the situation where you stay away from people that do drugs. Then there's strength in numbers, where you are with a large group that doesn't smoke. Another strategy is walking away. If someone asks you to smoke, say no and walk away. In Lesson 4, we learned to respond to peer pressure. Peer pressure is when someone challenges you to do something bad. It could be drinking alcohol or even doing drugs. And remember to always say no. Then in Lesson 5, we learned about dealing with stress, and there's so many ways. For example, you could walk and take deep breaths, count to 10, and even exercise. Always make the right decision when you're stressed, even if you're mad. When I get stressed, I love to sing a song. You can even ask my class. Remember, after you get done by being stressed, to evaluate the decisions you made when you were stressed, because they could be bad. In Lesson 6, we learned how to communicate. Now, you might think communicating would just be easy by just talking, but it's not. If you use the wrong tone, that could really be bad. There's 3 tones: unsure, confident, and demanding. Demanding is telling them exactly what to do, and they tell you by yelling. You do not want to be demanding. Next is unsure. Unsure is asking in a very soft voice, and you don't believe in yourself, or you don't have the courage. You would not want to be unsure either. Last is confident. Being confident is good because you aren't demanding, but you aren't unsure on what you want to say. Confident is what you want to be. Lesson 7 isn't too long because it really ties in with Lesson 6, but you got to remember to communicate effectively. By that I mean make sure people know what you mean. Then at last, Lesson 8. In this lesson, we learned about bullying and the 5 W's of bullying. They are who, what, when, where, and why. Then when you report bullying, make sure it's not tattling, or that can be bad. And then don't be a bystander. You got to stand up to bullying. Some of our vocabulary words were responsible, DDMM, drug, fact, health effect, risk, consequences, pressure, peer pressure, resistance, stress, communication, constant, unsure, demanding, nonverbal, good citizen, anonymous, help network. That's all. I think DARE was good. It taught us how to make good and brave decisions. DARE was also really fun. It could have been boring and dull, but Officer Staska made it fun. The kids in 4th grade, I bet, will love DARE, other than this long report we had to write. But thanks. Remember to make good decisions and not do drugs.
Is it okay if we do one more?
Yeah, I would say so. Yep, absolutely.
You want to hear all of them? Yeah. All right. Schmierberg. Like I told them, I have a good memory of their faces, but remembering their full name is sometimes difficult.
For 10 weeks, Officer Skaska came to our classroom to teach DARE. One of the things I learned was the DARE decision-making model, also known as the DDMM. Each letter stood for something you would do to make the right decision. First, letter D, define. What is the problem? Next is A, assess. What are your choices? The third letter is our response. What was your decision? Finally, E, evaluate. Did you make the right decision and why? We also learned about talking unsure, confident, and demanding. If you talk unsure, you might mumble and avoid eye contact. But if you are confident, you would make eye contact and not talk too loud but not too soft. Demanding, yelling, pointing, and maybe even scrunching your face. Another one, communication. It's important to communicate, especially when something's going on. You want to be as clear so it doesn't sound wrong and cause problems. I learned a lot in DARE, and I hope you enjoyed hearing about it.
Hi, I'm Alyssa, and this is my DARE report. In DARE, I learned how to be safe. I know to stay away from people I don't know, stay away from people who are smoking, and to not take anything from people I don't know. I also know how to handle situations because of what DARE stands for. D is for define, so I can identify the problem. A is for assess, so I know my choices. R is for respond, so what will I do? E is for evaluate, which means, did I make a good choice? Other things we did in DARE were skits, which made it interesting, so I want to learn more. I also learned about how to say no to bad things like smoking. I could walk away, change the topic, or say no and give a reason why. We also learned why we should stay away from things like drug and alcohol. Drugs are bad for your body. Like cigarettes, they can make your heart speed up and other bad things. And even if I'm not smoking them, I can still be affected. With alcohol, it can lead to you doing something bad by accident, and that's why I need to stay away from them. I learned so much more, but that was the main stuff. And thanks, Officer Staska, for teaching me and my class DARE. It was very fun.
I learned many things in DARE this year. I learned about the DDMM, facts about drugs and alcohol, resistance strategies, and we did skits. The DDMM is the DARE decision-making model. If you have a problem or a decision to make, I can use this. D stands for define. Define means I have to identify the problem. A stands for assess. I can assess what my choices are. R stands for respond. I respond to the situation. And E stands for evaluate. Did I make a good choice or a bad choice? Tobacco can give you bad breath, yellow teeth, and make you smell like smoke. Alcohol can slow your brain down. It can affect your judgment. I choose not to use alcohol, tobacco, or drugs. If I am in a situation I don't feel comfortable in, I have different ways to handle it. I can walk away. I can talk to a nearby police officer. I can tell my friends it's not good to be doing any of that stuff. I can change the subject, or I can offer to do something else with those people. I enjoyed DARE. I can't wait until everyone else gets to participate in the class too.
So like I said, I had 9 classes each week, 10 weeks long. Obviously, we covered a lot of topics. They had a lot to say. Again, when we talked about drugs, the drugs that we talked about were tobacco and alcohol. The DARE program has changed, and we didn't get into much beyond that. So, any questions?
Any questions from Heidi?
I just want to thank you for your work and dedication to this program and taking time to go do the training. And the messages are very good, obviously, that they're learning. And then also the fact that you are building relationships with these students at this age, I think, is also very important. So thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah. Any other questions, Ron? None? Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
And thanks for all the reports, too. Moving on to number 3, food service report. Shelley, would you like to come forward?
Yes, hi. Shelley Mack, Food Service Director, Dietitian. Here again, talking about our school lunch regulations. And on May 1st, we had some changes in our regulation. It definitely wasn't a rollback, but just some flexibility. And I think a lot of people were excited about these flexibility, the change in flexibility. For instance, one of the changes that we are going to see, and again, it's not a rollback, but whole grains, we were serving, we had to meet 100% on our menus, and they're rolling that back a little bit. That we don't know for sure, like the percent or whatever, but they are going to allow us to provide a waiver, and so the state will, approve it or not. But I'm excited about that because, some of the products, whole grain, are just not quite right where they need to be, and they're hard to cook. Our number one favorite in all schools is our pasta, the spaghetti and Alfredo. And so I'm excited that we can continue to serve regular pasta, and because I'd hate to see those counts go down. So I was excited about that. Another rollback was we have had to meet Tier 1 in sodium, and it's been a challenge. We've pretty much had to wait for the manufacturers or the industry to catch up. So we're basically both working together to provide lower sodium foods. And so I was excited to see that we're staying at Target 1 till about 2:20, so that we can, continue to go over the recipes, take our time with finding things the kids are really gonna like, and so I was excited about that too. I think one of the challenges of a lower sodium diet is basically condiments for us in Jamestown. So that in the next few years we can look at, how do you limit ketchup, ranch dressing? It's not just something you can do overnight. It's going to take time, and maybe there'll be some better products out there too. I mean, we like to do taste tests and things that we find out if the kids are going to like before we're going to do it. And so I think, I think that the U.S. Agriculture Secretary, I think he was listening to us and what we wanted to see. So that was very exciting to see. Another flexibility was in serving flavored milks. We can now we're serving skim right now, chocolate milk, but we are allowed now to serve 1%. So that's just another flexibility. I also would like to report on our farm to school program for this year. It basically kind of followed what we did last year. The amounts were up a little bit, but we had a really good program this year. We were seeing a lot of different products. We were, cherry tomatoes, watermelon was a big one, fresh watermelon, cantaloupe and some honeydew, cucumbers, zucchini. We shredded zucchini for muffins, homemade muffins. A few peppers. We're going to try and increase that for next year. Some colored peppers and carrots. We did some carrots and fresh baby red potatoes. And so we are still working with Jonathan and Hannah Moser of Streeter. And we also are still going to continue some products with Scott and Gwen DeBoard of Jamestown also. So just such nice couples to work with. Just so flexible, and they're just great to work with. It's nice to be able to provide that local produce because the quality, the taste, and the freshness it comes right to our door, and they're just excellent on knowing what we want. Also, I think gives our students a better understanding, where our food comes from, and that it's also, I think farm to school is an important tool in fight against childhood obesity and also food insecurity. So we will continue onward with that movement. Any questions?
Any questions for Shelley? None? Okay. Thanks for coming, and thanks,
Yeah, you bet.
Thanks for all the work. So,
Yep, thank you.
moving on to number 4, superintendent's report. Rob?
Thank you. You have your report from me in front of you. Just to touch on a few items, later on in the agenda you will have a resignation to approve from Dr. Saxberg at Gusner. So I have outlined a process for the hiring for that position. As in the past, I'm looking to have 2 teachers, a central office administrator, and 2 board members to serve in that process. And I think it's critically important to get a lot of different perspective on there. I've also reached out to, with the survey, to the PTO and to the teachers at Gusner to get some feedback on values, characteristics, skills. A very simple survey, but I think it helps to give us some insight and ensure that we're on the same path or on the right path. So looking at the schedule that I've provided for you there, position's been posted. We would have a meeting then on Wednesday of this week to kind of have the determination of skills, characteristics, values for the position. I would use those to create a rubric that we use to hire. We would then have a selection of finalists on May 30th. We would do interviews and deliberation. On my report, it says the 4th through the 6th. That should be the 7th through the 10th. My apologies. And then a recommendation to the school board for the June 19th meeting. It is a fairly accelerated process, but we are in May. So we have to make sure that we are getting the best possible candidates. So that's my recommendation for that process. And I know that Mr. Hout has appointed Steve Veldkamp, Heidi Larson, I think, already, correct? Yep. Am I right? Okay, thank you. The easement for 5th Street, that's later on in your agenda. I just provided a little bit more details there. You're talking about moving a few feet from where those lines are currently at. I don't foresee any short or long-term complications related to that. On the town hall meeting set for this Thursday, May 18th, I'm hopeful that all of our board members will be able to attend and
be a part of that information sharing, and then focus group sharing, along with where the community is at and understanding. We've talked a lot in the Citizens Advisory Committee that we're looking at 3 core areas. We're talking about educational adequacy. So what do we need to do? What do we need to do to support 21st education? Facility needs. So what are we doing to continue to provide safe and efficient facilities? But that other component is what is our community support? It's a very important component also. So we need to make sure that we're meeting all 3 of those areas. Just based on a few different discussions that I've had, I'm suggesting the potential for a late June, early July board retreat to discuss a couple different issues, the facility planning. I think it might be a good opportunity for us to meet with our CMAR and have some discussions about what's happened in the Citizens Advisory Committee thus far, allow the board to take a deep dive in those recommendations and priorities. Beyond just those that are on the Citizens Advisory Committee, I think it would be wise. And then also we had a question, I've had some questions about CTC budget, and this would give us, if we do that at this retreat, that would also give us an opportunity for Mr. Lynch to take the board on a deep dive of the CTC budget, similar to what Sally and I had, and when I say Sally and I mean Sally, did during the retreat in August for the district's general fund budget. Also related to CTC, we have some good news. Gackle Streeter School District, we are working with them. Mr. Lynch worked quickly to find potential partners for the CTC, and specifically I'm talking about the Pingree Buchanan's request to leave the consortium. And this would give us for the next year 4 schools in the consortium. And then the following year would be 3, which, as we know, is our minimum to maintain center status. So very good news on the CTC front in terms of school district partners. So I would be happy to answer questions if you have any.
Any questions for Rob or Steve?
Are we sure that Pingree is going to leave the next year?
Just based on their request that they have. I'm still hopeful that they will find it to be valuable and continue to, or find a way to continue to fund it. I think it's, that's my opinion. I think it's in the best. I think it's a great program and something they could see value from. But even if they do choose to leave, we would be able to maintain the status, which I think it's valuable for us either way. Having another partner just drives down the enrollment costs for everybody else involved too. So.
Any other questions? Bob?
Yeah, just expressing a concern on elementary principal position. In the past, we've had many of our administrators come from our teaching staff. And it seems like the last few years, we haven't had teachers that have wanted to move into administration. And I don't know if there's anything the district can do, and it's nice to have outside blood, don't get me that. I don't want to hire just from within the district just because they're from the district. But it's good to have a cadre, if you want to call it that, of trained people so that when we have a late resignation, it might be a little easier to recruit and fill. So that's just, you don't have enough on your plate, so I'm throwing one more thing on there. I don't know what the district can do, but if you are aware of anything that anybody does anywhere, in your spare time, you can come up with some ideas. Thanks.
Any other questions or comments or none? Okay. Moving on to board education, we have none tonight. Any old business? Hearing none, moving into new business. We have nothing under activities. Under building and grounds, we have, is there a motion to approve the electric line easement with Otter Tail Power Company? Motion by Bob. Seconded by Jennifer. Any discussion? Hearing none, assuming roll call vote, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving into number 3, curriculum and assessment instruction. Is there a motion to approve to add world languages as an 8th grade elective and post a total of 1 point FTE position to cover world languages and middle school social studies or a combination of foreign language and a middle school social studies. Motion by Bob, seconded by Jennifer. Any discussion? Rob?
Well, I do have some, I think, pertinent information if you made it through the entirety of a multi-page memo here, but I think it's important that we just kind of talk through this issue a little bit, and there's kind of a lot to absorb, so I'll kind of try to chunk it out the best that I can. In the memo, as you read, a couple different issues that I think are important to understand. The first is, as Mr. Mickelson had talked about, the overload of foreign language instructors. We do have, in this past year, had multiple extended contracts to cover foreign language issues, or foreign language enrollment, excuse me. And that's one of our issues. In discussions with scheduling for next year, that model of extended contracts was felt not to be sustainable and something that we needed to do something different. So, and also to get a firm understanding, current workload for the high school, 5 periods. So when we provide that 6th section, that denotes an extended contract, just so everybody's on the same page. The past practice, what we have done is credit bearing foreign language options at the middle level in 8th grade for some of our students. We set a GPA cut score. We say, I think in this past year it was 3.6, 3.6 grade point average or higher. Then you could enroll in that class. And it comes down to numbers. You have one section. And so right now we have a section that has foreign language, credit-bearing foreign language for some of our students. Others have to wait till 9th grade if they don't meet that cut score. So that's what we have now. Traditionally, that's been about a third of the students in the class, so in the 50s, in that range somewhere. We also operate in the middle school philosophy. We have teams of teachers working as parts of a house. We've talked about this issue before. Our 6th grade, and now this isn't a foreign language, but it's all part of the same issue. And part of the same recommendation is our 6th grades are operating with one fewer teacher based on course offerings in 6th grade. That has been less of an issue until recently when that enrollment has started to spike up higher. Those classes are getting into the 28, 29 range in some of our core classes in social studies. Originally, the plan was to take that 6th grade section, or I'm sorry, we have 9 sections of 5th grade. All other sections are 8. The original plan was to take that 9th grade section, transition it up into a 6th grade teacher, and to alleviate that stress that's coming particularly with 5th grade and then this year's 4th grade. Those 2 classes are largest in the elementary levels. So that was originally a plan. Looking at, as we've talked about, with budgetary concerns and issues, we decided to work to try to absorb that, even though those sections were going to look into the high 20s, which was concerning, but that was felt to be the best option from a financial standpoint. Although that concern is persisting of having those larger class sizes, that's what we looked at. I also talk in the memo about the opportunities to look at globalization and how can we better support globalization at the middle level. So those are the issues that I see, or that kind of support this decision, this discussion. So looking at solutions, so how can we address all of those things in the economic environment that we have? So the solutions that I have are looking at kind of multi-tiered possibilities. One would be that we could hire a foreign language instructor that can do multiple languages and can support 6th grade in social studies, because that's what our need is. And that would be one solution I would recommend in the recommendations that I've provided. That's one of the recommendations. We try that. Okay. At the same time we do that, we post world languages and middle school. And then we also have to address what Mr. Mickelson has addressed earlier also, is the unfortunate we're having the resignation of one teacher also. So really that's makes that even more difficult, because now you're not just looking for one teacher either in foreign language or world languages, you're talking about another Spanish person also. So what I would be recommending is that we have 3 positions posted, hire 2 FTE from those 3 positions. So we need to make a choice on, can we find a foreign language person that can do multiple languages and do social studies? And to be honest, the likelihood of that is not very high. To find that person that can do all 3 things for us is going to be difficult to find. The fallback solution would be what I'm recommending with world languages. You provide, and for those that are less familiar with what that might look like, you would explore each of those languages and cultures during a set amount of time in the curriculum. Say you're spending 9 weeks in German. You study the German language, you study the culture, all of that. Within that period of time, you'd switch on to Spanish. You might be going and exploring other different languages. The idea behind world languages would be not just that globalization, but you also get to explore the languages before you take it as a credit-bearing class. So you might get to explore, in our district, for example, you'd explore, you'd explore lots of different cultures and language, but you would get a chance to explore German or Spanish before you you make a choice and say, well, I want to be in Spanish, I want to be in German. You'd get a little bit more firsthand experience with that knowledge, or with that language, I should say. So that would be what I'm recommending in terms of options. I did provide some other information in there too, related to what I hear in terms of concerns that might be out there of, does something like this mean I wouldn't be able to take as a student? I wouldn't be able to take multiple years advanced language. We looked at seniors. I think you could look at juniors. I know Mr. Mickelson looked at juniors also. But as I looked at the senior class, what I saw from the data that's in there is room in the schedule. If a student were to choose to do so, could take the 4 years of language within the high school experience, even without starting at the 8th grade experience, at the 8th grade level. Other things that we, of course, need to look at, things like the study abroad experience, we would have to look to see how that's impacted. But I think those are all issues that we can work out. So that's what I'd be happy to answer questions if you have them. But that's the rationale and the solutions that I have. I hope that makes sense. I've kind of droned on a little bit here, but I'd be happy to answer questions if you have them.
Any other discussion or questions? Diane?
Yes, I'm wrapping my head around the fact that if they cannot take a specific language in the 8th grade, if we approve this motion, they still have 4 years to take a foreign language. The schedule affords it. And they get that world and cultural experience in the 8th grade. I'm not sure what's wrong with that picture. I know I had a student who did not take a foreign language in his senior year because he had already taken everything. And 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th. So I would like to understand Mr. Mickelson's perspective that it's a bad idea. I'm not quite sure I understand that.
I can probably touch on that a little bit, at least. It's about opportunity. How soon can they take? And would that take away from other opportunities? As I look at the schedule, it seems like there's flexibility, that students could take those things. And I think there's also concern over the scholarship opportunity. You want to make sure that students take, they take 2 years of foreign language. I think that was shared concern if all students would follow through. I think that they would.
Diane?
To follow up, I've always been a big proponent of the foreign language that we offer here. And the data is indisputable that the earlier you start, the better it is. There's no doubting that. So taking away a year of opportunity, I understand your answer, Mr. Leck, and that is a concern.
Brenda?
I know at my house we had a more advanced student in 8th grade that foreign language gave my son the opportunity to excel a little bit higher instead of being bored. What do we have for 8th graders that are on a higher level?
I think the important point here is, well, two. One, we still would be looking for foreign language. That would be part of that 2 tiers. You're making a determination based on the people that are available and the certifications that they could hold. If we could find somebody that would service foreign language and meet those 6th grade needs, we would go that route. If we didn't find that person, but we could find somebody that could do the world languages, we would offer that opportunity for kids to have that exploration of culture and language. That would take the place of the credit bearing. So they'd still have that opportunity to take the 4 years, but that would happen, the credit bearing would start at 9th grade. They would take world languages at 8th grade.
Bob?
I think I know the answer, but this is the world languages at the middle school. That would still be an elective course, right, for the middle school kids?
Correct.
Any others? Diane?
Just to be clear, if a person were to vote no on this motion, does everything go back to exactly as it is now?
Rob, you have a comment on that?
Well, if you voted no, we would not be adding that curriculum, so we would be looking for a teacher in foreign language that could fit both of those needs. And if we couldn't find that person, then we would not offer language at 8th grade because we couldn't find the person, I would assume.
This just gives an option. If we can't find a teacher, then we have another option to give to the kids as far as in foreign languages.
Just for clarification, the motion that I'm suggesting to you provides 2 different opportunities. We would be looking first for foreign language, somebody that could fill that foreign language need in German and Spanish, also address 6th grade social studies needs. At the same time, we'd be posting for world languages and social studies. For a world language teacher needs to have a minor in language. So that person would be easier to find. But we would still be looking for foreign language, hoping to find somebody that can fit all those needs. I'm just being realistic about, we already have a difficulty finding, elective areas. To find somebody that could fit 2 needs and a core in 6th grade would be, to be honest, it's not going to be very easy.
Steve?
So we would be posting 2 jobs, but maybe only hiring 1 if the better opportunity presented itself.
Correct. We'd actually be posting 3 jobs, 1 FTE in Spanish, assuming approval of a resignation, and then these 2, and we would be hiring 1 of those 2 job postings.
Heidi?
So the best case scenario, we hire someone that can do foreign language, a specific foreign language and the social studies, then would we still be offering that credit for 8th grade?
If we can, obviously the best case scenario is the perfect teacher we find that we want to lead our students has the ability to teach Spanish and German, which we would then offer for credit, and then they're also able to take care of the 6th grade social studies.
Yep. Heidi?
I find this to be I feel very torn because I understand on one hand, even at this late of the game, trying to match and hire for something very specific like that with the middle school endorsement and everything they need is going to be difficult. And if money weren't an issue at all, which I know it is, I'm along the lines with Diane, where the sooner the better. I'd like to even see it in the grade schools, but I know financially that's not, we are working under what we've been given here, and so I will be, I think this motion is really, in my mind, our only choice at this point, given this time and late date of trying to provide education for students. But I was very much in favor of offering that credit in the 8th grade, and I know it does fit into schedules, but it might depend on which schedule. If they're also in band or music or taking physics and chemistry, and it may not fit into all the schedules for a student to do all 4 years if that's what they're interested in.
Steve?
If we post that position and ultimately end up with a world languages teacher, do we lock ourselves out of the ability to go back to a credit class in future years?
I'm glad that you brought that up, and I think it's a really important point. No, it would not. As I would see it, if the schedule allows, or any opportunity allows, we could always go back to offer. We could even offer both. We could offer world languages and credit-bearing foreign language in the 8th grade. It would really just depend on staffing. They wouldn't be they're mutually exclusive. You could have one or have both. So I think that is an important point that you make also. You would be able to do both. You can make a change based on who you have available, or if the schedule allows at the high school, maybe one of those languages or both of those languages could be offered at 8th grade, which I think is important to consider that flexibility too.
Bob?
If the motion passes and we wind up with a world language program, the only concern I would have would be that in the future our students are having trouble getting in 4 years of a foreign language. Because I think that is one of the strengths of our district, is that we offer 2 foreign languages for 4 years. So I would just ask that we track kids taking the kids' ability to take 4 years of a foreign language, so that you don't always know the repercussions of an action for a few years. So that's just something I think we need to keep track of as administration.
Any other discussion? Diane?
To back up what Mr. Toso was saying, I do think that students that are taking a foreign language in the 8th grade tend to be high achievers, and they do have a full schedule as they approach graduation. They may not have an opportunity to get 4 years in, and it is a strength of our district. I think it's compelling that one of our foreign language teachers is here talking about that. I don't think that can be ignored in any way. And I hope that I'm not the only one with this last question of confusion for me. If Mrs. Simons is replaced with a Spanish teacher, I don't understand why we couldn't offer, what would her role be in the 8th grade if we deny this motion?
Not really sure I understand your question, but I'll do the best that I can. So right now, the number of sections that we need would be 6. When Mrs. Simons was here, or here now, the desire was to not teach an extended contract again. So we would need an extended contract. So if another person was hired and that person was willing to do an extended contract, you could, or had a desire to do, maybe it would be a better way to say that, you could add 6 sections in that person's, but you would have to look at that. One of the ways that, as I outlined in the memo, you can make this budget neutral is to absorb the extended contracts that you're already paying for people and then make other cuts within your budget, and then that becomes a cost neutral. We're adding FTE, but we aren't adding an expenditure. We aren't adding more expense to the budget. We're just balancing the cost out. Does that answer your question?
Any other discussion? Hearing none. Sally, you want to call the roll on?
Jennifer Schmidt? Yes. Diane Hansen?
No.
Steve Veldkamp? Greg Allen?
Yes.
Heidi Larson?
Yes.
Brenda Remick?
No.
Steve
Cedric.
Sorry. Roger Hout?
Yes.
And Robert Toso. Motion passes 6-2.
Moving on to finance, is there a motion to approve the notice of recognition? And if a person making the motion, please read the notice of recognition. Bob, okay.
The Jamestown Public School Board, after investigation of the petition filed by the Jamestown, I'm sorry. Start again. The Jamestown Public School Board, after investigation of the petition filed by the Jamestown Education Association requesting that the association be recognized as the representative organization for the negotiating unit, and has determined that the Jamestown Education Association does represent a majority of the persons within that unit, and hereby recognizes the Jamestown Education Association as the representative organization for a minimum of 1 year, beginning May 15, 2017.
There a second to that motion? Motion by Brenda. Any discussion? Hearing none. Assuming roll call vote, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Is there a motion to approve the approval of textbooks in the amount of $199,799.58? Motion by Brenda. Seconded by Greg. Any discussion? Hearing none, assuming roll call vote, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving to letter C, is there a motion to approve the rental agreement with the Jamestown Gymnastic Club in the amount of $8,500 for the 2017-18 school year? Motion by Jennifer. Seconded by Heidi. Any discussion?
That is up $1,000 from our last school year. Correct? 1,000? That's right.
Okay. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, assuming roll call vote, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving to D, general fund balance. Sally, you have any comments on that, or just there for our information? For information, okay. Moving to letter E, is there a motion to approve the monthly financials? Motion by Greg, seconded by Brenda. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving to personnel, is there a motion to approve the resignation of Katie Satter as third grade teacher at the Roosevelt Elementary at the conclusion of the 2016-17 school year? Motion by Jennifer. Seconded by Diane. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving to letter B, is there a motion to approve the resignation of Hattie Fulmer, sixth grade reading teacher at the middle school at the conclusion of the 2016-17 school year? Motion by Heidi, seconded by Greg. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving to letter C, is there motion to approve the resignation of Dr. Saxberg at the end of the 2016-17 school year? Motion by Brenda, seconded by Steve. Oh, and Jennifer reluctantly, correct. Any discussion? Brenda?
I just want to thank Dave for all his years of service at Washington and Gessner, and being on several different committees that I served with him.
Okay. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving to letter D is there approval of the resignation of Jenna Simon, foreign language instructor, at the conclusion of the 2016-17 school year. Motion by Greg, seconded by Heidi. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Oh, Heidi?
I just want to, we have a list of resignations here, and just, these people have given their time and talents and to our district and to our students, and we just appreciate them all. So thank you.
Absolutely. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving to policy and procedures, is there a motion to approve all the second readings, A through D? Motion by Jennifer, seconded by Greg. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We have nothing under tuition. Items for future agenda. Something does come, just let myself or Rob know and we'll get it onto the agenda. Rob?
Do you want me to start working on finding a date in late June, July for board retreat? Does that, the recommendations I had, anything else on that? If you had any other potential board retreat items, just let me know. Okay, thank you.
Moving into meetings to be scheduled, we have the Transition House graduation on Wednesday, May 17th at 11:30. It's at the bunker. We have the GE graduation on Wednesday, May 17th at 7 p.m. at the Career and Technology Center. We have the town meeting coming up on Thursday, May 18th, 5:30 to 8:30 here in the Thompson Room. And I would encourage, all those watching or want to have a voice heard or find out what's going on, please attend that. And then we have the high school graduation on Sunday, May 28th at 2:30 at the Civic Center. And then we also have on June 5th, our next school board meeting. It might be canceled depending on how things go coming up for his negotiations and so on. So, and then moving to Roman numeral 6 or Roman numeral 7, make sure you fill out your monthly superintendent evaluation. And then we don't have executive session, I do.
No, unless you
Nope,
have a need
nope,
for it.
I don't.
Yeah.
I don't think we do. So, and then also make sure to right-click on your adjournment to assess our meeting tonight. No further business. Our meeting's adjourned. Yeah.